This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up, real MVPs, Ricky Widmer here, along with the Mark Weber.
Dub them ease.
And we are back continuing our trudge through the previews, which are our NFL previews. We have finished the North, so we're kind of going from the North. We did NFC, AFC. You guys can check those out on our podcast services and our YouTube channel. We now move to the South, Mark, and we do, if you're new to these, we start with the NFC, then we do the AFC, so the next 2 weeks will be in the South before we go West, and then we go East. Before we get into everything, though, first off, the Onside Kick, if you haven't discovered by now, professional football podcast here on Most Valuable Podcast. And how you support us is patreon.com/Most Valuable Podcast. We've got 3 tiers, the bronze, silver, and gold for you guys to check us out on. At that bronze tier, the lowest $1. You get to join our Discord server. You get the MVP podcast a month early before everyone else. And it's kind of that base tier, and then the gold tier are highest. You get to come on a podcast and talk about what you would like to talk about. Check that down below in the link in the description. But Mark, it's pretty much business as usual here. I said NFC South, how we do it. We start with the worst. We go up to first, so that means we'll go Buccaneers, then the Panthers, then the Falcons, and then we'll end the podcast out with the New Orleans Saints. And just like we've done the other teams so far, the Buccaneers last year coming in 3rd overall in offensive yards per game, just over 415. They were 12th in points per game, just over 24 points, almost to 25 points per game last year. But their defense was not good. 27th in yards per game, giving up 383 yards. And they gave up the second most points right behind the Bengals, 29 points per game. You can also check out a conversation that Mark and I had about Jameis Winston, and can Bruce Arians bring the most out of him? I'll probably have that pop up above our heads right now. But Mark, the question I want to ask you about the Buccaneers is, with everything that they have in free agency, they didn't do a lot. I mean, they signed some quarterbacks in Griffin and Blaine Gabbert. They bring in Perryman from the Baltimore Ravens, who drafted him. I want to ask you, Todd Bowles, also the new DC, are the Bucs going to be able to do enough this year to kind of flip the script and not end up being the worst team in the NFC South in 2019?
I don't know. It's such a tough one when you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because on paper for the past 3 years, they have been a good team. Mm-hmm. They've been a team that should do much better than they have. And there's been 2 big issues when you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And people might disagree with one of them, but Dirk Koetter was a huge issue. Lovie Smith was a big issue too. Took a really good defense and made it worse.
But Lovie also got ran out of town because, hey, we got this guy. We got this offensive guy that can do great things with Jameis Winston. Well, and then he didn't.
I hate to say it, but Lovie Smith deserved to be taken out of town because, like I said, he took their strongest part of that team, made it worse. The strongest part of the team was the thing he was known for, which was defense. So Dirk Koetter couldn't get that offense. And like you said, the offensive guy, we believe in him. You know, he did great things with Atlanta. He's going to do great things here. No great things were had. And then the other part, of course, and this is something people might disagree with, is Jameis Winston. That Jameis Winston has never, even though he can put up some stats, he's never truly stepped up to be that kind of, I hate using the word elite here, but being that kind of elite leader that the team needs. I still go back to Hard Knocks. This is a crazy thing that this was a conversation had on Hard Knocks, where Koetter says to Jameis, he says, I need you to not fuck it up, basically is what he said. I need you to not be the reason we lose.
Basically, don't throw interceptions.
And what happens is Jameis Winston, more often than he needed to be, was a reason why they didn't win games.
Well, and I mean, another big problem, and this kind of stemmed from Jameis Winston because he was suspended at the beginning of the year, but last year I felt like this team had a little bit of an identity crisis at the quarterback position, because for 4 games, Jameis wasn't there. Ryan Fitzpatrick came out and played very well. Like, he played well in those games. Did they win every single game? No. But he played well enough to when Jameis came back, there was a conversation. And to me...
Well, it was more than a conversation. Jameis lost his job.
Well, yeah. But, I mean, even, like, after that, it was, okay, Jameis got the job back. Then they went back to Fitzpatrick. And from there on out, it's like, okay, we don't know who to start.
Yeah.
I know there's a pocket of fans in Tampa, in Florida, that Jameis is our guy, we're sticking by him, and I expect you to be like that. It's your team, you're going to back your horse in the race, you're going to back Jameis because he's your quarterback. But I feel like if Jameis was so good and he's our guy, why didn't the coaching staff have enough confidence to when he came back say, hey, Ryan, I know you played well, but Jameis is our guy? Because the confidence wasn't there, because you look at their stats. Technically, last year, Ryan Fitzpatrick, yeah, they were in the same ballpark, but technically had a better completion percentage than Jameis. He also averaged more yards per game because he was able to take the ball down deep, especially with Deshaun Jackson last year. And when you look at their touchdowns, yeah, Jameis had more of them, but he also had 2 more interceptions and about, 13 more sacks than Fitzpatrick had last year. So, I mean, the microscope offensively for me is going to be Jameis Winston, only because, like, I mentioned that weapon in Deshaun Jackson. Yeah, he's not here no more. Like, your wide receivers and your tight ends are basically, you got O.J. Howard coming off of an injury again. You've got Perriman coming in, one of their free agent signings. But besides that, you got Godwin, who played pretty good. You got Mike Evans, who's their guy in the receiving core. Other than that, like, this is not a stacked receiving core or a stacked tight end core. You pretty much got 3, maybe 4, if Perriman can do anything this year receiving.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me, too, because you look at this team, and you've got Bruce Arians now as your head coach, and Bruce Arians is a great head coach. He's a guy who's going to bring a certain level of toughness to the team. He's a guy who's going to, I think, do a great job with Todd Bowles, who's a great defensive coordinator. Not a good head coach, but he was a great defensive coordinator. They're going to make this defense come back to what it was before Lovie Smith got there and kind of mess things up. They're going to make this defense really strong. But I look at this night, and yes, Bruce Arians said, I can work with Jameis Winston, and Byron Leftwich is going to have quite the job getting the most out of the quarterback. But I look at that and I say, but Jameis he's done well. He's just never taken that next step forward. Are they really going to get that out of him? And I look at the rest of this team too with Bruce Arians, and an interesting quote earlier this week where Bruce Arians says, that they don't need a David Johnson. They don't need a Todd Gurley. They're fine with who they have. Which is an interesting thing because they're basically saying, yeah, I don't have a single great running back, but I think I got enough to where I'll make it work.
I don't think, like, Peyton Barber and Ronald Jones aren't the worst, and plus the thing I would think of is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers drafted Ronald Jones. Give him a little bit more time because he still is a very young running back.
Wasn't Bruce Arians.
Yeah. But I mean, he's a young running back where you don't have to rush in and get a veteran.
That's not what my point is. My point is Bruce Arians himself says, I don't have an all-star running back.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of guys who are pretty good, but I think that's okay. And I think that alone tells me that Bruce Arians is looking at this team, and still, despite what he said of I can work with Jameis, personally I feel like it's because Jameis only has really a year left. To me, it's really just I don't have my pieces right now, but I'm going to get what I can out of these guys, and I'm going to start to hopefully get this team going the way I want it to go in the future.
Well, and I kind of see that too off of the defense as well, because like you look at it, JPP coming over, they traded for him, I want to say it was in March of 2018. They bring him over, and he's on the team. You got Ndamukong Suh, who's the free agent signing this year, one of the big ones that happened very late, was on the Rams team that was in the Super Bowl last year. They bring in Vita Vea. They've got Carl Nassib, who was waived by Cleveland, who now the Bucs are going to bring in to say, hey, we're going to try to start you maybe on the left side of our line opposite of JPP, and then in the draft they go with a guy like Devin White, who could potentially be the kind of leader of this team in that middle linebacking position, to where I feel like the two things I'm going to be watching from the Bucs this year is, one, Jameis Winston, because I'm more of an offensive guy, and plus in a contract year, I want to see what he does with a new head coach. Because you're right, he's not Bruce Arians' guy. So if he doesn't perform this year, I wouldn't be shocked if Bruce Arians was like, well, Jameis, it was a good year, but we're going to let you go. I already talked to management, we're going to let you go. Where this defense is the second thing I want to look to, because last year, and I read off the rankings beforehand, the offense wasn't terrible. The defense was. Like, when you're giving up the second most points in the league, ask the Bengals. You're not going to win many games, because the Bengals didn't either. I know the Bengals were separate because they had decimated with injuries. We talked about them last week.
Yeah.
When you're giving up the second most points and you're giving up more points on average than your offense scores, you're probably going to lose the game. That's just basic math.
The thing I want to throw out there, though, with JPP is he's not going to play next year. And I wanted to double-check in case it's been an update, but he has a fractured neck from that car accident, so he's probably not going to play. So that's certainly not going to help the Tampa Bay Bucks.
So then it'll probably be Golston. It'll be Golston and maybe Nassib that could be starting on that defensive line.
I think this team is starting to build the right pieces. I don't think this is a team that needs to blow everything up. This isn't, the football giants, the Arizona Cardinals. It's not anything like that where they need to blow this team up. But I do think that this is a team that in 3 years, when they're good, they're not going to look anything like they do right now. And I do truly believe that Bruce Arians will make this into a good team. Especially having Todd Bowles as defense coordinator. I love that. This is a team that is going to be a dominant defense in, like I said, 2-3 years. They're going to be really good defensively. The question's going to be, what's this offense going to look like? Are they going to get the running back situation? Because Bruce Arians, think about the Arizona Cardinals. Yes, they had a strong-armed Carson Palmer. Yes, they had Larry Fitzgerald as well. But a good thing about the the Arizona Cardinals with Bruce Arians was they could pound the ball. And this was a very kind of balanced offense that you want to get out of Tampa Bay. Right now, I don't think you have that. The running game, I think, is going to need to do some work. They're going to need to get something, which I wouldn't be surprised if they try and trade for a running back later. Jameis Winston's going to be an interesting one, but he's got Blaine Gabbert as a backup who... Blaine Gabbert, I'm not going to try and even pretend is an answer at quarterback, but he has shown moments when he's had his chance to come in that he can at least be competent. Not even saying he's going to compete with Jameis Winston. I think Jameis has the job locked up right now. But if Jameis continues his downward trend...
Or if he gets hurt.
Then Blaine Gabbert's coming in. So it's a team to me right now where I'm not sure how that's going to go. Mike Evans, I think Mike Evans is on the last year of his contract, isn't he? If that is the case, I don't know that he's going to be here
I'm gonna pull it
for
up
that much longer.
Pull up a little spot rack for you. Mike Evans is... No, he signed an extension.
Oh, he did sign an extension.
Yeah, he signed an extension where he'll be a free agent in 2024 when he's 31.
Okay, so he's going to be there. You got him locked up, which is good. Which is great, because, that can be kind of a Larry Fitzgerald type of thing. But I really think that quarterback-wise, I don't think that Jameis Winston is done in the NFL. I think he'll move on to another team, and he's going to have his chance to do it again. I just don't necessarily know that he has much more leash left in Tampa Bay.
Well, and one question I'll ask about Jameis is, what do you think Byron Leftwich's role is going to be on this team? Because I kind of have a feeling like with Byron Leftwich hasn't had a long lineage as a coach. Quarterback, very well known in the NFL, but as a coach, he was a quarterback coach for the Cardinals for 2 years, OC for the Cardinals last year. Now he's with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the thing that I'm kind of feeling, and on the good side, I'm kind of hoping this for Jameis Winston in a sense of maybe Leftwich can be that kind of player coach per se on the sideline, where Arians is more of that relationship where it's like coach and player, where Byron Leftwich is kind of like that mentor, not mentor because I mean Winston's not like just coming out of the league, but he's that older veteran that Winston doesn't have to worry about taking his job because he's a coach, not a player. What kind of a do you think Byron Leftwich is going to mean anything to Jameis Winston this year, or is it just going to be something where it's mainly Winston and Arians moving forward?
No, I definitely think that he's gonna mean something because when you look at when he was brought into Arizona, he was brought in, essentially to work with quarterbacks, and that's what he's there for.
Because he had Carson Palmer was the quarterback his first 2 years in Arizona. Yep. Then last year, obviously, Josh Rosen.
And that's the thing that concerns me, and I'm not going to blame Byron Leftwich at all with this, but Carson Palmer was already an established name. Carson Palmer was already a great quarterback.
He was on the way out almost.
Yeah. Then you have Josh Rosen, who we've kind of stopped trashing Josh Rosen. But for a while, right? For a while, people were just absolutely trashing Josh Rosen, and it's not really his fault that he was sacked a million times in about a second. But I just sit there and I'm like, I don't think we saw any development out of that offense and out of Josh Rosen. So we're gonna go ahead and say Leftwich. Yeah, we know that you got fired. You want our job? Well, and, where we don't have an established quarterback and we need a quarterback to, get more out of him.
And that's why I wonder if when it comes to the development and him on the feet, like when it comes to everything like throwing less interceptions, completing more passage, which I'll say 64% wasn't bad from Jameis Winston last year. It's just Fitzpatrick was completing 66%, so it was 2% higher. I think when it's X's and O's, maybe it's Arians that takes that lead.
Well,
but when it's Byron Leftwich, it's more of that kind of like maybe I don't want to say what I was originally going to say because it sounds like he'd be a glorified babysitter, and I don't want to feel like Leftwich is that. But it's kind of like that guy that Jameis can go to, that he can have that connection to. Like, hey, basically.
Yeah. Well, he was hired essentially for offensive coordinator and the pass game coordinator. So I'm assuming Jameis is his responsibility.
Okay.
Is my assumption. And I don't know if that is maybe Bruce Arians kind of being smart and playing the game of like, I do not care if we lose this guy. If Jameis is not doing well, Leftwich is gone as well.
Do you think Bruce is calling plays on game day, or is it Leftwich that's calling plays?
I don't know. I mean, pass game coordinator...
That to me says that hey, he may be calling plays.
He could be, but I'm not going to be surprised if it is Bruce Arians though. He is the head coach. You want him to be responsible for it.
Bruce ain't going to say, "Hey, everyone, you do all this," and I'll kind of just sit up here and
y'all have fun. I'm going to take it easy on the sideline. Yeah, that doesn't strike me as Bruce Arians kind of way.
Not at all. Any final things you're thinking about with this team before we dive into the schedule?
Not necessarily. I think like I said, I think that they made good draft picks and things like that, and they're kind of stocked up on defense through the draft and made some good free agent moves. I just don't think we're there yet for Tampa Bay.
And when we look at the schedule, so to set this all up, because the Bucs are the first team we're looking at in this division, we're going to see similar opponents. Obviously, they have 6 games against their division mates. The 2 divisions that every single NFC South team will face is the AFC South. So we have a South-South matchup this year, and also the NFC West. Because we've got Rams, Seahawks, Cardinals. Do I have the last one? Yeah, I think it's the 49ers, the West. For the Bucs, the only intermittent ones that are not on anyone else's schedule are the Lions and the Giants. When you take a look at the Bucs schedule, what are your thoughts?
When I take a look at the Bucs schedule, I mean it's a little bit scary because their division is tough. They got to, of course, play the Rams and the Seahawks. They've got challenging teams out there. The Colts are going to be difficult. They've got a lot of challenging teams. I look at their easier games, the games that, in theory, right now, should be easier. And I look at the Lions. I look at the Cardinals. I look at the the Giants. I look at maybe the 49ers, depending on if Jimmy Garoppolo truly is the next best thing to slice bread. We'll find out. But I look at those games and I sit there and I say, that means you really have to go out there and play upset if you want to get any better. Because you're, and part of it's just because of your division. Your schedule's not doing you any favors. So you really need to go out there and prove it. That's what I really think of when I first look at this schedule, is that they have to be a team that actually proves they can go out there and win games.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at it too. And out of the games, because usually, you know me, I like to kind of predict how many wins they may get, even if it's way too early in the offseason. And I wouldn't be surprised if the ceiling for this team is a similar situation to what we had last year. But when I look at it, I mean, I could see them splitting with Carolina. The only thing is they get their home game taken away in that sense, because that game is going to be, I believe, in London on October 13th. 8:30 a.m. game usually triggers London game for me. So you get that home game away. I still think they could possibly split against the Panthers, though. The Giants
This is a good year for the Panthers, though. They weren't that good last year.
And that's the reason why I'm kind of Where the Giants, I think they could win. The Cardinals, I think they could win. The Titans, possibly. And the 49ers are kind of like that because, yeah, it is the first game. But Jimmy Garoppolo coming back, we don't know what to expect because when they played him last year, they didn't. The big thing last year, too, that the Bucs had were, yeah, you beat the Saints and the Eagles out the gate, but that's because Ryan Fitzpatrick basically punched those two opponents right in the face. And we're like, hey, you weren't expecting this out of me, but also your Browns win last year, a 3-point overtime win that, if I'm not mistaken, was a game that the Browns almost won themselves and was one of those, like, man, if the Browns would have won this, they could have been a playoff team last year. So the Buccaneers, I will say, I still feel like this team is a prime contender for top 5 pick in the draft next year. That's how many wins they're going to get.
I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if they're right where they were last year, 5-11 again, which is a little unfortunate and disappointing for our Buccaneers fans that are watching this video.
And I mean, your division is tough. Last year, you only got 1 win in that division.
Wouldn't be surprised if it's not much different.
The AFC South is tough. Like I said, you can beat the Titans, but really the other 3, the Jags, the Colts, and the Texans.
Those are really good teams.
The Texans would be my lowest one, only because you play them week 16, and let's see how healthy they are by that point. And then the AFC West, where it's like, hey, have fun with the Cardinals and maybe the 49ers. But
and the Rams.
Well, I mean, the Rams are a loss. Yeah. The Seahawks are at Seattle, so you ain't winning that game. Like, it's hard to win.
Yeah, when you said have fun, I thought of, like, have fun losing.
I meant like have fun. You might win those 2 games. Yeah. The Rams and the Seahawks, I see them losing. Those are both road games as well. And then it's just like the Lions. I'd side with the Lions because of where their team's at.
That's a winnable game.
But it's winnable, but I would side with the Lions. And then the Giants, I don't have much confidence in them this season. Any final thoughts before we move on into the Carolina Panthers?
It'll all be better in a few years.
Okay.
For our Tampa Bay
Mark's
fans.
on that. Jameis will be gone. Bruce Arians will bring in his guy or draft his guy. Hey, maybe this
Arians is a good coach. He'll make it work.
You know how the Cardinals sucked for luck? Maybe this is where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers suck for Tua.
The Colts?
Yeah, where the Colts sucked for luck. The Bucs maybe suck for Tua this year.
Cardinals just suck to suck.
Where they just, hey, you know what? We're just going to try to get the first draft pick and get Tua, and then sorry, Jameis, you're out of here. But Bucs fans, let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section about your team. What do you expect them to be? How high? How low? Same spot? Let us know what you guys are thinking.